Funding for this video is brought to you in part by Luisa and from viewers like you. Thank you. What's up, punks? And welcome to video. If you're not new here, you know what day it is. But if you are new here, hi, my name is Allie. I'm an American living in Belgium, trying to balance daily life alongside disability, celebrating my daddy, and reading a whole lot of books. And seeing as it's the first Sunday of the month, we will now be getting cozy and chatting about everything that was read in the month of April. But before we get too cozy, let's put on our excited pants, or rather, let's put on our excited earrings and talk about the sponsor of today's video, who is none other than Luisa, a jewelry company whose mission statement is simple: high quality jewelry should not cost the planet. If you're looking to elevate your everyday, then look no further, because this online jewelry shop offers long-lasting and ageless essentials that you can wear time and time again. Luisa crafts their jewelry with the planet in mind, and this means that they are both 100% carbon and water neutral. Also, their diamonds are lab grown, which means they're cruelty free. Music to my ears. On top of all of their environmental qualifications, which are clearly outlined on their website, you're just looking at affordable, beautiful jewelry with pieces starting at just $39. I've worked with Luisa for over a year now. Happy anniversary, by the way. And we've been going for as long as we have because I'm genuinely in love with everything that I get from this website. If that wasn't abhorrently obvious by the fact that I am literally wearing something from them in every single video over the past 365 plus days. Like, this is my emotional support necklace. I literally never take it off. I'm currently being very unfaithful to my daily necklace. Would you like to chat about the most recent things I picked from them? This is the fire pendant. It's so cute and sunshiny. I love the texture on the coin. There are so many pendants available right now. I think y'all will love the one with the mushrooms on it. They're all so good. I struggled. The next piece I chose was so good, I had to get a second pair, and it's these mini rocks earrings. Now, I got two because they're like these little chain pieces, and so I really wanted to create a little symmetrical stacking moment, and I wanted to pair them with these Spencer tortoise earrings. I'm in love. They're somehow both so sophisticated and so fun. And so this is the look with everything put together. She's bedazzled, she's glowing, she's thriving. Right now they've got some great sales going on, including their Mother's Day sale, so if you would like to gift you and your mom something nice, or honestly anyone that you'd like to celebrate on this holiday, everyone's families are different, then you can click the link in the description box below. Save some money, get a great gift, everybody wins. 10 years ago, before I moved over 1,300 miles away to go to college, I gifted me and my mama matching necklaces, and we wore them for over a decade until they fell apart. Obviously, these necklaces were not from Luisa, if only. Don't worry, if you're watching this after Mother's Day, I have a discount code linked down below as well, so you can save some money any day of the year. You're welcome. Thank you so much for sponsoring today's video, Luisa, and 3 cheers to a whole year of working together. Thank you for making me feel so beautiful all the time. Now let's switch the focus from golden things to golden reads. The month of April was so chaotic for me. I had final exams, and then we moved, and then classes started back up again, so I didn't read as much as I typically do, but I did still read 8 things, and I'm proud of that number. There's 1 graphic novel, 2 non-fictions, couple poetry collections, and some good old regular fiction as well. We'll talk about it all, but first, our quick 3 disclaimers. 1, never compare yourself to anyone but you, especially when it comes to reading, especially when it comes to the amount of reading, especially if it comes to comparing yourself to people whose job it is to read books for the internet.com. If you're reading, you're winning. 2, if I loved a book that you hated or hated a book that you loved, that's not a personal attack. We just had different feelings towards ink on paper. We all look for different things when we pick up a book, and that's both loved and celebrated in this house. And 3, make sure to check any old content warnings that you may need to before picking up any of these books. Take care of yourself. There's no shame in that. The first book I read in April was Pod by Aline Paul. Alternate title, Dolphins Can Be Fascists Too? Question mark? My buddy read this one with my bookish friend Alex, and after reading the first chapter, I sent her so many excited texts. I thought we were going to be reading a book about an autistic asexual dolphin. I was very wrong. My feelings for this book are all over the place. I have 2 main gripes. One of them is that the blurb does not give you an accurate depiction of what you're in for at all. It makes you believe that you're going to be following one dolphin who doesn't feel like they belong with their pod, and they're going to be exploring that and figuring themselves out, etc. It's rather a pretty confusing story that follows many different creatures, all of which you have to Google unless you have extensive knowledge of marine biology, which I do not. My second gripe is that while this book holds some fire themes, some of them being gender fluidity and how that exists naturally in the animal kingdom outside of human influence, and environmental deterioration of the ocean exclusively because of human influence, I feel like they're not going to resonate with people as strongly as the extensive, elaborate, graphic, abundant dolphin sexual assault scenes. I really think that the majority of people who read this book, kind of myself included, are just gonna walk away remembering this book as the dolphin rape book, and I don't blame them. It got exhausting. It It happened so frequently. It was just too much. There were moments where my heart was really ripped out from its socket. There's a scene where a group of fish are taken up by a fishing net and you get a first person point of view, or I guess first fish point of view of how confusing that experience is. That broke my soul. Also, I learned some stuff. Did you know that the military uses dolphins? Excuse me? Google's entire story completely destroyed me. I actually lost sleep over it. There's also some great moments in life lessons, such as the power of female friendship, displacement, the cognitive dissonance involved with what you gotta do to survive. And I'd argue that it also highlights how crucial class solidarity is in order to take down the real evil, and how evil that real evil is, and how the crumbling of the world as you know it due to said evil turns you into the worst version of yourself. Like, those lessons slap. This book sounds like it would slap, but at the end of the day, I did not enjoy my reading experience here. I really only got all of that value from it because I read it with someone and because I dissected it extensively. And I don't mind if a book takes work. I love that, in fact, but I still want to be able to enjoy the experience of reading it, which I did not. And so I cannot confidently recommend it to you. Are dolphins actually aggressive? Sure. Do I need to be reminded 10 times in one book? I don't think so. I'm still very curious about Paul's writing overall. I still intend on picking up her other book, The Bees, because there is some powerful stuff in here. It holds a lot of potential. Maybe it's the fact that that potential is there is what made it even more disappointing in the end. Don't know. But let's just hope bees are less icky. Speaking of reading with friends, let's talk book clubs. I technically participated in 2 last month. One of them was, of course, our book club, the Pocket Pages book club. We read something new each and every month and then discuss in a temporary Discord server, so you don't have to be available for any live streams or anything like that. Time zones can't stop us. Next month we are reading Papisho / This One Sky Day. It's the same book. For whatever reason, it has different titles in different countries, but I'm really excited. Join us if you'd like. Last month we read A Woman in Salt by Gabriela Garcia. Women, certain women, we are more than we think we are. There was always more. Now, this is a multi-generational historical fiction that follows the lives of several women. One timeline is a family from Cuba who immigrates to Florida, and the other is a mother and daughter who flee El Salvador to also immigrate to the United States. These timelines intertwine, and we're introduced to the varying circumstances that could lead someone to needing to flee their home country, as well as the differing threats that are placed seemingly arbitrarily on these women. I feel like I learned a lot because of this book. It had me looking up the history of Cuba, the history of the relationship between Cuba and the United States. It took a little bit to get into, but once I was hooked, and I could tell from the first page how beautifully talented Gabriela Garcia's writing is. There were so many gorgeous lines that made me feel so much less alone. How will I survive? And then the day after that, how will I survive? And when will I stop feeling exhausted from all the surviving? I think about this often, about whether the past is real if we don't bring it into the present. Tree falling in the forest and all that. I don't know if I am the tree or the no one who doesn't hear it. I do agree with a lot of y'all in the book club chat that the ending did feel a little bit rushed. I too craved more closure, more resolution, but despite that, I loved this book. I thought it was so special, so gorgeous, and I'm so glad we read it together. I feel like I feel this and say this every month, but it is so magical to not read books alone, and it's even more magical to read books with so many wonderful minds. So just thank you so much for reading with me. Thank you so much for sharing your feelings with me. I love reading what y'all have to say with each and every book. I then decided to participate in Gabby Reads' Book Troop book club. I especially like this book club because I tend to close spookier books absolutely needing somebody to talk to me about what happened. Last month's pick was What Lies in the Woods by Kate Alice Marshall. This is a story about 3 friends who experience a horrifying violent event in the forest one summer. However, when they go to the police, they do not blame / convict the right person. And so as a reader, you're left wondering why they lied, who did they actually convict, who's still out there. Now, it's been a while since I've read a thriller, so if by any chance you didn't know, I am very easy to please with this genre. I love cheap thrills. I do not pick up a thriller book for meaningful metaphor, powerful prose, deep themes. I open a thriller to be hooked. I open a thriller to be entertained. I pick up this genre to read it fast and feel like I'm in a movie. So as long as it flows, I'm typically happy, and this book did that. Now, the gripe that I do have with this book is that it is basically a carbon copy of a real life crime. I made the mistake of naming the case in the live stream, and I was thus told that that was a spoiler. My bad. I deleted my comment from the stream, so it's gone, so I won't spoil you in this video, and I won't spoil you in Gabby's video. But the point is that I was familiar with this case before diving into it, and so I knew the big twist. I also did happen to guess a couple of the other big twists, so I wasn't floored by this reading experience. I wasn't knocked out of my socks, but I was able to fall into it and read it within 24 hours, so I feel like that's saying something. I had fun. I was entertained. It had sprinkles of Brutes by Diz Tate. If you're not a lit fic girly, but you still like that flavor of girls are gross, girls are creepy, little girls can be twisted. I mean, hell, the first line is, there is a wilderness and little girls. That's a fire opening line in my opinion. It was good. I'm not gonna scream from the rooftops that everyone should read this and it was the best book ever, but I had a lot of fun. And it was even more fun to watch Gabby and Jordan and Kate delve into why they loved or hated this book. So I'm really looking forward to May's read and discussion. Let's talk poetry because I think I'm a poetry girly now. I may not have the biggest of brains, I may not be a poetry expert, but I have been reading the genre pretty consistently over the past few months, and so I'm starting to learn what I like and dislike, starting to work that part of my noggin. It feels good. I'm gonna confidently say that I'm in my poetry era. Love that for me. The first one I read was Bright Dead Things by Ada Limon, and this was recommended to me by y'all in the comments. Thank you so much. You really nailed it with this. I said that I loved Mary Oliver's poetry, and I then got so many comments saying that I have to read this one. It is definitely sweet, slow, and simple like Mary Oliver poetry, but it's definitely very different as well. My favorite poems are The Problem with Travel, The Noisiness of Sleep, and What Remains Grows Ravenous. I would like to read The Problem with Travel with you now. Every time I'm in an airport, I think I should drastically change my life, kill the kids stuff, start to act my numbers, set fire to the clutter, and creep below the radar like an escaped canine sneaking along the fence line. I'd be cable knitted to the hilt, beautiful beyond buying, believe in the maker, and fix my problems with prayer and property. Then I think of you. Home with the dog. The field full of purple pop-ups. We're small and flawed, but I want to be who I am, going where I'm going, all over again. We're small and flawed. Oh, no truer words have been said. It really is the little things. Now, what makes this one different for Mary Oliver is that it's not as nature focused. And I do believe that nature-y poems are my favorite poems. So keep the recommendations coming. You're very good at this. The next poetry collection I read is on the newer side. It's a very new release, and it is Grocery Shopping with My Mother by Kevin Powell. Now, when I saw this online, I needed it immediately because the blurb, the title, the cover, it had me thinking it would have similar feelings to Crying in H Mart. I thought the whole thing was gonna be poems about mothers, your relationship to your mother, the bridges that we mend with our mothers, all that jazz. And I gotta be honest with you, it is definitely not that. There are a small handful of mother poems, but what this actually is a collection on human connection and the power of positive influence and celebrity, with themes of generational trauma, the cycle of abuse, race in America, and more. So the title is misleading in my opinion, I would say that, but I will also say that I was pleasantly surprised with what was inside. I loved the emphasis on how grateful Powell was for all the women in his life, and that's really the vibe through and through. It was just this big love for everybody who's crossed his path and done something positive to it, and also the people who did something negative to it. Now, I'm no poetry expert, but I can confidently say that I love having people like Powell in my corner, people who are so passionate about the love that they have for others, people who find the beauty in the everyday, and I feel like the strength of this one is in its simplicity. It's a straight to the point celebration of life despite its hardships, and his poem about bell hooks had me so moved that I immediately went to the bookstore that very same week to pick up something by bell hooks. I got all about love, but I'd love to know what your favorite bell hooks book is. My favorite poem was Son to Mother, which was towards the end, and I really wish that we had more of that throughout this collection. I'm just a sucker for mom things, but the structure that it did hold was just so unique to me, showing who you are through who you know and knew. So not at all what I expected, but I wasn't too mad about it. I also read 2 non-fictions last month, and I have very mixed feelings on both. The first one was Laziness Does Not Exist by Dr. Devin Price. Now, I love Price's writing. His book, Unmasking Autism, I'm recommending in almost every video, it seems. This one is about the myth of laziness, and this one made me feel anxious in the way that any political book would make me feel anxious, which I wasn't expecting, but it makes sense because disability is extremely politicized, unfortunately. I agree that the myth of laziness is a problem that needs to be solved, and I agree with the solutions that Price presented. You know, start with yourself. Detangle your own negative self-talk surrounding needing to do more all the time. Learn more, achieve more, do more. Work through any ableism that you hold for yourself or others. I loved the study surrounding how productive rest is and how doing nothing is crucial in order to, one, be healthy, but if you want to do more, doing less allows you to do more later. That was very interesting. We should reduce the 40-hour work week. I agree, but no matter how much I agreed with it, I didn't feel hopeful. You know what I mean? The solution sort of felt like a mismatched puzzle piece to a completely different puzzle. Like the pH balance of the daily American life would just dissolve any of our efforts. Capitalism is too strong. Does that mean we shouldn't try? No, I'm not saying that. It didn't feel like enough. Like, I suffer from chronic migraines. I've also recently found out that I'm autistic, so I know that I need to take extra special care in order to not burn out and shut down. I know that. And in the past, I didn't know that. I've overworked myself to deterioration, to hospitalization, juggling multiple jobs and full-time school and extracurriculars, the works, because I felt like I had no other choice. And I think even now, knowing all that I know about my body and my brain, I would probably do it all over again the same. Because to me, it kind of doesn't feel like it matters what you need or what you know. That's not what the world allows. And I'm in the best case, most privileged scenario. I work for myself. I make my own schedule. If I get a migraine and I can't see, I don't have to then face beratement from a mean boss. I am the boss. I berate myself. And even so, in order to keep up with everything, I'm working more hours than I've ever worked before, which isn't a complaint. I absolutely love what I do. I just struggle, despite being in the best case scenario, to slow down, to be lazy. And so it was pretty disheartening to think, well, if I can't do this, how is the average person supposed to do this? If you're working a 9 to 5, if you're working several service job positions, you've got weird hours, you're working into the night, how are they supposed to do this? I was in that same boat just a year or so ago, and I couldn't do it. So there was just so much cognitive dissonance in experiencing this book. I hope the world embraces slowing down. I really do. I try to implement more of that into my life. That's what all of the vlogs are, essentially. And regardless of my mixed bag of emotion and my complicated feelings surrounding productivity, my own internalized ableism for myself, this book is chronically readable and very interesting. Price always does his homework. His books flow in such a nice, readable way. There's a great balance of research and interviews, anecdotal evidence, and real, true, cold, hard facts. It's just a careful and accessible bounty of knowledge, and they're usually pretty short as well. Remember, with nonfictions, there's usually a lot of notes, so it's never as long as it looks. And if you're someone who's typically afraid of nonfictions, I think that this is a great place to start if this sounds interesting to you. Would honestly make a good book club book because it evoked so many emotions and it would start so many wonderful conversations. I obviously had so much to say, so great book overall. The next nonfiction I read was Divergent Mind, Thriving in a World That Wasn't Designed for You by Janara Narenberg. This book is exactly what it says on the tin. It's a nonfiction about neurodivergence in women, and oh my goodness, talk about disheartening, which again, no fault to Narenberg, all fault to the world outside my window, but still, owies reading this. Big time owies. So we explore how failed the medical system is, how to advocate for yourself, but how exhausting it is to constantly advocate for yourself. It took me way longer to read this book than I anticipated it to, just because it made me sad. It made me feel bad for who I am. I already struggle so much with feeling like I don't belong anywhere, like I'm too wrong for the world. And this book just kind of emphasized that for me. There were some hopeful moments, but just me personally, I didn't feel good reading this. I also just felt like the interviews were not at all varied enough. They weren't inclusive at all. And there was just too many of them. The topics didn't flow at all. I felt so disjointed and tossed all over the place, getting whiplash, being introduced to so many different people just to get a quote or two from them. There were some lines that made me feel less alone, you know? I walked away with the knowledge that a hammock will imitate the feeling of a sensory swing. And I'm someone who's wanted a sensory swing for a hot minute, but I'm a renter that cannot install a sensory swing. So that was good information to walk away with, but overall this just was not worth it to me. I don't have too much new to bring to the table that doesn't already exist in a different online review somewhere. One of my favorites was this 1-star review from a therapist. I'll link that down below. I just think that this was published way too late in the game to be as flawed as it is. I wouldn't recommend it. I think there are much better books out there on this topic. Unmasking Autism by Devin Price, which we've already mentioned, and also Connecting with the Autism Spectrum. The latter being the most accessible of the two, but both of them being so strong, so good. And also, if you feel like being heartbroken and hopeless feeling about the medical system and being a non-man, Unwell Women. A very depressing but informative and important read. And finally, let's end on a happy note, shall we? I would like to talk about The Moth Keeper by Kay O'Neill. Kay O'Neill is one of my favorite graphic novel creators ever. They are responsible for the T-Dragon trilogy, which sits on my favorite shelf. Everything that they make is just so comfortable. There's a Dutch word, gezellig, and it doesn't have a direct translation to English. The best is just comfy and cozy. When you feel so cozy, it's in your bones. Just trust me. The Moth Keeper is a middle grade graphic novel about someone who's gifted the responsibility of being the moth keeper. Said moths pollinate everything that the village needs to survive, so it is a lot of pressure. We explore the dangers of burnout and the power of community. We gently embark on the daily life of this non-human world that's split between day people and night people. If you love low stakes but full vibe stories, this one or anything by Kay O'Neill fits the bill. Plus, the art is to die for and the color palettes are a hug. The color palettes are a hug. Thank you so much for existing and creating and sharing, Kay O'Neill. We are big fans in this house. And that's that. Those are the 8 things I read last month. It was a weird month. There were quite a few books that were just kind of meh, couple books that were dang good, but no new favorites, unfortunately. Maybe next month. How many books did you read last month? Great! I'd love to know what your favorite book was from last month. Did you have any heartbreaking disappointments like me? Did you have your world rocked? Did you have your world changed? I'd love to hear all of it. I genuinely love talking about books in the comment section below with y'all. I love this cozy corner of the internet. It's magical. It is a magical feeling to me. So thank you so much for being here and making it what it is. Speaking of thank yous, first of all, thank you so much to Luisa for sponsoring today's video. Remember, if you would like to treat yourself or someone you love, even if that someone is you, you can do so and save money by clicking the link in the description box below and or using the discount code in the description box below. Thank you as well to everyone on patreon.com who make it possible for me to call this my job. I'm so grateful to be able to create with such wonderful, kind people on the internet.com. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And also thank you to anyone who has pre-ordered a Snaily shirt. The pre-orders will be open for the next couple of weeks. I designed them with my own bare hands. Support the channel, donate to a wonderful cause. It's a win-win for everyone. All of the wonderful things will be linked down below. And as always, thank you for clicking, thank you for caring, and thank you for being nice. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!